How is all? I'm here for myjailmail.net. Check it out for more information. But today I'm going to show you how to make a tattoo gun like you would in prison, basically. So this is a toothbrush, as you can see, and we're going to make a tattoo gun out of the toothbrush, a pen, some other little knickknacks around that you can find. You'll need a button. You're also going to need to find a motor. And as you can see, we're going to light this up and bend it. You can use matches, lighters, hot water, whatever you can to make it so you can bend it. So you just bend it like that. As you can see, I've speed bits up and I've cut bits out because otherwise this video would go for an hour. Because it took me an hour to make. So yeah, you didn't want to sit here for an hour, so bits are sped up, bits are cut out. So here, the motor, that's bent. The motor sits there. I've bent this toothbrush the wrong way. Because the bristles are facing out, I should have faced them in. So I'm going to light it back up and bend it back the other way. But it's quick, yeah, just get it warm and it'll bend easily. So you're also going to need some tape, a lighter, a couple of pens. You're going to have to find a pin or a needle or anything sharp. A paper clip, you can sharpen them up. Just whatever, so you can have something sharp and pointy. So now it's bent over, the motor goes there. You're going to need to sticky tape that motor onto there, which we're not going to do quite yet. But see this button, that sits on the motor and that is going to drive the tattoo needle backwards and forwards. So the buttons don't quite fit straight away, so you have to stretch the buttonholes out. I'm going to use a knife, but if you're in jail you'd use a fork or anything you can get your hands on. Even a hot pin. Heat up the pin and melt it around, melt it bigger. So yep, I've just cut out the inside a bit, scraped it out, which it didn't quite fit, so I'm going to have to do it a bit more. Now this has to be really tight, so you don't want to go overboard, you want to do little bits at a time. Just little bits at a time and then work it on. So it's nice and really tight and firm, so it'll stay spinning. So yeah, as you can see, this rotates there. So you see how it spins around, and that just pulls it backwards and forwards. Nice and easily backwards and forwards. So yep, see, it's on nice and tight. So now that's on, I'm going to sticky tape the motor to the toothbrush, which is basically our handle, or, you know, the base of it, what it's all going to sit on. It's all built off this toothbrush. You don't have to use the toothbrush. Also, a spoon works really well, a teaspoon. I'll actually make another one in the future out of a teaspoon and show you how to do it that way. They're a lot more stable and everything, but everyone seems to make them out of toothbrushes for some reason, I guess, so you can just throw them out easily. It's always good to be able to dispose of quickly while you're in jail. So now see how that turns around, yep. Now, you've got to pull out the ink of your pen. These gel pens work really good because you can use them for a barrel and also the ink out of them stays in. It's actually really good ink out of these gel pens, really good tattoo ink. Don't use normal pen ink, but this thing's going to need to be cut down because it's going to sit on the end of our tattoo gun, and that's what the needle's going to go through. So you're just going to get some scissors or anything you can find, cut it down. Skipped a bit, see? Cut it down now. So that's cut down, do this back up. And that's where it's going to sit, on the end of the tattoo gun. And the needle's just going to go through it. So now, I've got a bit of a staple, and I'm going to hold it together with my trusty nail clippers, and heat it up and push it into the button. Now you want it into the opposite side of the button that goes into the tattoo gun, that goes into the motor. So this needle will be on the opposite side, so it will move around. as you'll see shortly when I put it on the motor. So just put it in there nice and firmly so it's held in. As you can see, that's sitting there. It's nice and tight in there. So we're just going to push it back onto the motor. So it's all nice and tight. See how it's on the opposite side from the pin on the motor? That's how it will pull backwards and forwards. So there we go. It's on nice and tight, nice and in. And see how that pulls backwards and forwards? It goes around it. So that pin actually works backwards and forwards. That's what drives, it's like a little gear for it. So now we've got our padding there. So we're going to need to cut the end off so the pin can go through this pen end, because this pin will fit perfectly through there. Hopefully it'll fit perfectly. See it fly? So now we've got the pin and we've cut that end bit and we test to make sure that it goes through. And it does, nice and smooth. So that went through there. Now I'm just going to wipe off the pin and see, that'll just go in. So I've just wiped off the needle. You don't want to leave any ink on there to dry up. And also you don't want it all over your hands. So now that little thing we're going to melt our pin into, but see it's not long enough. So we're going to need to cut down this toothbrush. So we're just going to have to figure out how far down we need to cut it. About there should be good. So now this actually took a long time, so I did skip. I'll cut out most of this stuff. And as you can see, that's cut down. I ended up cutting it halfway and then snapped it. So what we're going to need to do, that's going to sit on there like that. And the pin is going to go through the end of this. But we don't want that whole big ink there. So make sure you keep this ink because this ink is really good tattoo ink and it will come in handy once you're finished. Hopefully you can get your hands on one of these pens. Hard to get, but when you do, they're worth it. So now that's just going to go inside of that and we're going to do it back up. So it's held in there nice and firmly. So now we're going to melt the pin into this pen ink thing. And the pen ink thing is going to be the needle holder. As you can see, that's on there. We're just going to heat it up and melt it on. Which I've sped this bit up. Or it will speed it up. So make sure you get a fair bit out of it. And make sure that it's melted in place really firmly. So test that it's in firmly. Squash it on there. Make sure it's melted all the way around so you can't. It won't come out and it won't move. You don't want to be halfway through and then your gun breaks. So see how that's all nicely melted around it. I'm just going to hold it there. I'll let it dry a little bit. Make sure that it's straight. Or straightish, straight enough. There you go. So now that's all made, it's time to put the actual gun together. Nearly time. We're just going to test to make sure this goes through. Never force it through. Just do it nice and gently and all will be well. nice and gently, and just put it through. And as you can see, it goes in, moves around, moves freely, doesn't really wiggle around anything in there, it's nice and tight, backwards and forwards. Now you're going to need a paper clip or something else nice and pointy to melt through this thing so we can put it through the staple that's melted to the button. So I'm just heating up the paper clip, you can't really see it, but I'll move it onto the screen in a moment, like there. So heat up the paper clip, and it's going to go through the end of through it, so the staple has something to go through. So that's it, just push it through there, nice and easy, melt it around, make sure the hole's big enough for the staple. So there we go, now this will fit on the staple like so, through that hole. If you line it up right, you don't want to force it, you want to make sure there's a bit of room so we can move. And see how the staple can move with it in? Now, you want to feed this through there. As I said before, don't force it, you don't want to blunt your needle, and you don't want to break something. So once that's through, make sure you line it up right so it's all in line. So the needle comes out and in. So yeah, make sure it's all lined up right. And that'll be good. So once that's all lined up, hold it in place, and we're going to need to sticky tape it up, which I'll get to in a moment. Sorry you can't really see it, but yeah, basically I'm just sticky taping it onto the toothbrush and making sure it's in the right spot. This part you've got to make sure you get in line, that's why I'm sort of off the screen a little bit. So as you can see, I've got that around. I'm just sticky taping it up nice and firmly. Make sure you do it nice and tight so it's not going to move. You don't want to be moving and having to realign all the time. And this bit's a bit sped up. So as you can see, that's the whole thing all made up. Then you've got the wires there. So you're going to need to put your lighter onto this and expose some wire. Then you need to connect it to your power supply. Now I'm actually using a phone charger for my power supply, but if you're really there, you could use a PlayStation charger, they work, or pinch a USB cord and plug it into the PlayStation, use that for power supply. This is all hoping you have a PlayStation, or go and find like anything that has a power supply basically, like one of those, like on a phone or anything like that. So I know there might be a accordion in the music room, not an accordion, what do you call them things? Pretend pianos. Anyway, one of those electric piano things might have one. Pinch that, make sure you take them back, because otherwise you're going to get the whole jail search, everyone's going to be upset, so you just pinch it for the night. But yeah, basically you do that, put it all together, make sure the black's on the black, always black to black, black's always negative, and then sticky tape it up so it's not going to short out. So yeah, that's looking nice. And to show you what happens. So now if you get your stuff, and if you plug it in, it runs. Take a look at that. See how it works? So it's just pulling it backwards and forwards around in a circle, sliding it into there, and the needle's coming in and out. So now, off you go and have fun with your tattoos. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe to see more. Have a good day. Visit myjailmail.net to see more. See you later.